Now before moving on, I just want to stop for a second and acknowledge how crazy all of this is. Essentially on a whim, Pharrell agreed to meet with Nigo so that he could use his studio, and less than 24 hours later, they were planning on going into business together. Another thing that I want to emphasize here is that this was most certainly an important day in the history of Billionaire Boys Club, but it was also an important day in the history of Bape. As we discussed earlier, Nigo was looking for ways to popularize Bape in the United States, and at the end of their meeting, he gave Pharrell as much Bape as he could physically carry. Sensing the start of something great, in what I can only describe as poetic fashion, Pharrell left behind all of the clothes that he'd arrived in Japan with, and returned back home with nothing but Bape in his suitcase. After returning home from his trip to Japan, Pharrell became the unofficial poster child of Bape, wearing it in photo shoots, music videos, and pretty much everywhere else. This generated a ton of interest among Pharrell's largely American audience because, as we've talked about, he was already viewed as a budding style icon, and so they all wanted to know about this cool Japanese streetwear brand that had seemingly taken over his entire wardrobe. That being said, Pharrell is widely credited with helping popularize Bape in America, and it wouldn't be long before other rappers started following his lead. Thanks to this, Pharrell quickly became synonymous with Bape, and around this time, the only other brand you'd really see him wearing was his own, Billionaire Boys Club. If you ask me, Pharrell and Nigo handled the marketing of Billionaire Boys Club masterfully. Before it was even available to the public, he debuted his new clothing line in the music video for his song Frontin'. This was technically his debut as a solo artist, so the anticipation from his fanbase was already high, and to raise the stakes even more, the song featured none other than Jay-Z. It ended up being a smash hit, having reached number 1 on the Billboard's Hot R&B and Hip Hop chart, and this of course drew a lot of attention to the music video. In turn, this drew a lot of attention to the Billionaire Boys Club t-shirt that Pharrell was wearing in the music video, and fans naturally began to wonder where they could get one of their own. Adding to the mystique of the brand, he continued wearing unreleased pieces in public appearances throughout 2003, and one other thing I want to point out is that he continuously paired Billionaire Boys Club with Bape. Even though Bape was just beginning to take off in the United States, you have to remember that it was already a well-established streetwear staple in Japan, and by pairing the two brands together in his outfits, he entered Billionaire Boys Club into that same conversation. His friendship with Nigo clearly played a huge part in this, but the bottom line is that Pharrell was creating intense international demand for a clothing line that wasn't even out yet. In other words, Pharrell and Nigo knew that Billionaire Boys Club was bound for success, and as it turns out, they weren't the only ones who knew.